Hi, and welcome to the Rule of Carnage Kickstarter Roundup for October. So we've got a handful of interesting projects this month, a bit of a winding down in physical reward campaigns, which I think is sort of not that unusual as we're running towards Christmas. Fewer people are going to want to back for physical rewards. We've got some nice digital campaigns and some interesting campaigns out there overall. So we've got some accessories campaign, one campaign that's still offering physical rewards, and a set of STLs. And we're going to go straight in with the first of those accessories campaigns, and that is Warganizer Workshop by 3-5 Design. So we see a fair amount of organizer sets on Kickstarter. This is exactly that. It's a 3D printable set of trays and storage systems and solutions. I do think this one is a particularly good one. First of all, it's both for paints and minis and brushes and all the bits and pieces. So we see quite a few that are for minis and quite a few that are for paint systems, but not very often one that can sort of combine the two together. Also, it's very, very modular. So you've got shelves, you've got trays, you've got drawers, and you've got the ability to put them all together and use them to transport from gaming location or painting location to gaming location, painting location. So yeah, really nice modular set, well thought through, lots of options. This is one that I'm actually considering picking up personally, so I guess you call that a real sort of recommendation from me. I think it's a really nice one. This does stand out, I think, in the organisers generally. Looks really good, solid, and with lots of options and modularity for it. So if you're still on the fence about getting your workspace organised and your painting and your minis stored nicely, I think this is a great one to get in at. Okay, next up for our accessories campaigns, we've got Texture Rollers number 21 STL files for 3D printing by STL Loot Factory. So it's been a little while since we've seen a nice set of texture rollers, so I thought this was a good campaign to feature. For people who aren't aware, haven't come across this before, basically a texture roller is very much what it says. It's a sort of cylinder with a texture around the outside that you can roll across soft modelling clay or something of that nature to give yourself the texture of a road or a cobblestone or a futuristic spaceship, whatever it happens to be, depending on what's on the roller. It's a great way of modelling a large board very, very quickly with a lot of detail and sort of, yeah, direction and a sense of a board. Also, a nice, cheap, quick way of getting a set of themed, textured bases for your minis. So yeah, loads of people swear by texture rollers. You can get really great effects for them if you're into making, modeling, putting together your own tables, boards, etc., rather than sort of buying them pre-made or using mats. This is a great way of getting a really good high-end look across a large area very, very quickly. Yeah, if you're interested in that sort of thing, check them out. If you haven't tried texture rollers out before, you know, give them a look over. They're a really nice, quick way of putting tables together. Okay, moving on from accessories. Physical reward campaign, just one this month, and it is Tales of the Old World, A New Hunt by Axia Ciefeli Giuseppe. So, as I say, this month, just the one campaign offering physical rewards, and it is significant. I think this one also offers STL digital rewards. So this is available either as STLs or resin prints. Again, you're not going to see a lot of physical rewards this close to Christmas. But this is a really nice campaign. As the title suggests, is a strong old world Warhammer fantasy sort of style to these guys. It's a set of human empire, whatever you want to call them, minis. There's also an ogre dotted in there. So I think this is round about a sort of large Mordheimy warbands worth of models. Also, the sort of feel and character to them, they each have a sort of a sense of their own story rather than necessarily looking like a single coherent unit, but they would be great for characters dotted around a larger army. So I think this is a great option for anybody who's into, obviously, something like Mordheim, but any sort of warband level, skirmishing, adventuring, narrative play, and particularly if you are interested in expanding that out into a full mass battle game as something like the Old World, or if you're looking for some characters, some models to dot into an existing larger force to give it a bit of extra sense of story and punch it up a little bit. Really lovely minis here, lots of options. Great to see a digital or physical level reward option. So yeah, lots of options here to back. Really cool minis, really nice sculpts, well worth giving a look over. Okay, as I said, that is it for physical rewards this month. On to the digital and STL files. First up, we've got Smol Tanks by Chris Smith. So, weeny bit of vested interest up front. Chris is apparently a member of our Discord, although I didn't know that until after I had bookmarked this to include it on the roundup. It's a bunch of little tanks, kind of big turrets on little tracks, sort of look to them, so a bit sort of I guess you call it chibi, a bit sort of cute. I really love them. I love the idea of them for a sort of slightly more chaotic playthrough thing. Maybe something like Tonks, maybe Brutal from Electi Studios, something sort of quick, fast moving, that doesn't take itself too seriously. I could totally see these guys, depending on your scale, of being sort of a punched up version of something like Robot Rally. But basically these are some, quick, characterful, funky looking tanks in a smallish scale, so you can get them onto the tabletop. I think they work great for something like a 4-player sort of one tank each sort of quick moving game. I think they've got a nice sort of character. I think they've got a nice sense of humour to them. I think they're sort of quick to put together, get onto the tabletop and have a bit of fun. I feel like these make a nice sort of beer and pretzely style game with these tanks, or they're just, they're fun, they're cool, they're weird. If you're into alternative sort of sci-fi, particularly unusual scales, I think these will slot into a whole bunch of systems. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got Runners and Foes 32mm sci-fi miniatures 3D printable STL by Green Miniatures. So this is a really nice campaign, unusual because it has a distinctive cyberpunk feel to it, which we don't see an enormous amount of. So if you are interested in that end of your sci-fi gaming, I'd strongly suggest swinging by, giving this a look over, backing it and picking it up, just because of its sort of unusual level of uniqueness. What is in the campaign is a set of cyberpunk runner style miniatures, so a sort of a little warband of cyberpunk character narrative level guys, and a set of security guards. So you've got a definite sort of two sides here for setting up a starter game. There's also some nice terrain, mainly scatter terrain, but some nice bits and pieces to give a table a feel of a sort of cyberpunk setting. To me, as a Shadowrun player of old, a lot of the characters just jumped right out and gave me a strong sort of nostalgia hit for the old Shadowrun archetypes. I haven't been by Shadowrun for a while. I imagine that a few of them will still fit in there. So certainly if you are sort of on the cyberpunk end of some role playing, these would be brilliant for that. But I think if you're interested in any of the sort of independent cyberpunky style warband level narrative individual combat style games, scrappers, things like that, I think there's a lot here to sort of get into. Every one of the models has got a load of character and a sort of definite sense of story to them. Nice to have two distinct forces in a simple campaign, so that you can pick up both sides and either play to against each other humans, or I think the guards make great NPCs in a cooperative or PvPvE style setup. I think there's loads of systems that you work really well with, and I think there's a lot there to get your teeth into for a bit of sort of design for scenarios and rules and homebrewing and stuff like that. So yeah, well worth checking out if you have an interest in that sort of Shadowrun cyberpunk style end of sci-fi / fantasy gaming. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got Kadau, the Temple Moon by Kathy Millett Limited. So this is a really interesting campaign, I think. It's mainly a collection of terrain, although there are a set of minis in there. I'll get into those in a second. So the terrain is a temple which could be sort of an old world sort of temple from real human history, but it has a little bit of a feel to it. So it's meant to be a sort of sci-fi, Star Warsy sort of feeling, sci-fi but ancient style temple. It's a really nice one because it's got some unusual levels and sizes and ranges within the minis. So if you are interested in multi-level play, you want something a bit out of the ordinary, you want something with some unusual levels of height and shaping to them, I think this has got a lot going on. I think it's really interesting terrain. Anything that is unusual is interesting and well worth looking into and considering picking up for what it could do for your gaming, what it could do for your tabletop. So for that, I think the terrain is well worth swinging by taking a look at. There's also some sort of Star Wars styled adjacent minis in there. My personal favourites are the pilgrims. So because this is a sci-fi temple, there are some pilgrim miniatures in there, and I really love those guys. They give me strong Final Fantasy vibes. That sort of non-specific weird future pilgrim thing. It's a look I can't quite put my finger on, but it's oddly distinctive without being tied to any given system. So I think these guys would be great for like NPCs, for any sort of unusual sort of non-specific setting location, which is great considering that, you know, quite a few of the minis in there have a specific sort of Star Warsy feel to them. So there's some interesting minis, there's some very interesting terrain. I think this one's well worth swinging by, giving a look over and seeing if that terrain's going to slot into a vision you have for your tabletop and your gaming. Well worth checking out. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got Nomads by Seraphine Grithel. I try not to sort of repeat too much in the way of theming in the roundup, but we've got a couple of campaigns here that have a little bit of overlap or similarity to them. I had to keep them both in just because they're so good. The first of these is Nomads. So this is a set of minis, individuals of sort of steppe nomad style type people. Several units worth of minis, a good sized warband here, or a starter for a mass battle force, plenty for anything in a smaller individual narrative style gaming. What's really cool about this as well though, some very heavily themed terrain in there. So you've got sort of yurts. My personal favourite is that there are yurts on carts are being transported around. There's plenty in here to theme a good sized force and a decent sized table for not just a single battle, but not just a campaign, but a campaign where you are moving your people from place to place. There's real narrative here, real story. I think there's huge opportunities for designing a campaign system where you've got your yurts, you've got your camp, you're protecting it, you're moving, you're being attacked on the move. Loads of stuff here, loads of narrative. If you've got any sort of interest in sort of long connecting sort of campaign game. If you just fancy some Nomads for a warband style system, these would work great in something like Saga, anything of that size, or maybe a little bit bigger. If you just want some cool minis, well worth swinging by this one. Really nice sculpts, really nice terrain, really sort of well thought through way that the two sort of can combine together and tell stories and create on the tabletop. So yeah, really lovely campaign, well worth swinging by, giving this one a look over. Next up for our STL file campaigns, we've got Tokugawa Bushido 3D printable STL Samurai miniatures by Forged Path Miniatures. So this campaign, like I say, there's a little bit of, I think, of overlap with Nomads in that it's the same sort of size of campaign, same sort of number of models roughly. So Tokugawa doesn't have the terrain end of things, but has maybe a couple more units. Obviously, yes, samurai themed. So you've got a whole range of weapons and sort of a few distinct units of samurai in here, armed with, you know, the usual traditional weapons you might expect, katanas and you know, bits and pieces like that, but also some more unusual weapons. We've got jites and war fans, things like that. So it's nice to have a bit of extra theming in there. Obviously, these guys are going to be great again for Saga. They're going to be great for something like Test of Honor if you want to proxy some models. Also, some mounted samurai. There's really plenty here to get a decent sized elite themed mass battle army out there. You could definitely get yourself a hobgoblin or an old world army on the tabletop using this campaign. Plenty obviously therefore, as I say, for a warband based game like Saga. Really nice sculpts, loads of options in there, as I say, for weapons, mounted, dismounted. Yeah, really nice campaign, really great sculpts, a reliable creator. Well worth checking it out if you're looking for something with a samurai theme to it of a mid to large sized wargame force. Okay, moving on. Next up for our STL file campaigns, we've got Skarrtrench 3D printable miniature set by Philip Sin. So in relation to the fact that I try not to repeat the territory on campaigns in a single roundup, this campaign has a lot sort of overlapping with the next campaign, but both of them are just too good not to include, particularly for what they're doing, what they're putting out there. So Skarrtrench is a tabletop's worth of terrain, and I don't just mean buildings and walls and forts and etc, etc. I mean the whole tabletop, the ground, the land, everything, you know, from the table upwards. Called Skarrtrench because the specific table that's being put out there has a massive, detailed and very cool trench sort of cut into the ground, and the trench coming up to a settlement, a sort of fortification, an orky kind of themed looking fortification. So you can imagine the sort of the ramshackle teeth and bits and not together sort of version of a fortification that represents. And along with these orky style fortifications and these orky style trenches and sapping, there are a whole bunch of miniatures, orc, goblin style miniatures, a good army's worth, a good sort of big size army's worth, to be honest with you. So look, this is a huge campaign with tons of content to it, minis, tabletop, terrain, everything that you could sort of think of. If you're looking for a fairly big project and you're looking to build an absolutely stunning tabletop for playing sieges, campaigns, things like that on, this is a great campaign. This one's going to keep you going for quite a while with your hobby. If you're looking for a, you know, really cool orc and goblin style force, The minis are really are great in of their own. This really could have been like 3 different campaigns very happily. But there's tons of level, there's tons of options. You can go in where you want, pick out the bits that you're looking for. Loads to consider in here. Loads of hobby, loads of options, loads of minis. Just massive, massive campaign. Well worth checking out and looking over. And yeah, considering. I think that there's going to be something in here for almost anybody. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got Hexengarde 2 by Tired World Studio. So yes, another tabletop filling amount of really cool terrain. So this one not modelling the entire table from the ground up, which, you know, might be a bit much of a project for many people. This is a bit more modular. You could probably take this in bits and pieces and build up to it. So if you're a bit intimidated by doing like a full 3D printed terrain, this is probably a better option. This one, much more of a more time feel to it. There's definitely some distinct Mordheim nods there, with some fish dotted around in bits and pieces. Also theming to the fact that this is a sort of a Docklands style set of terrain. There are ships in there, which is really cool. Yeah, so this is to build a riverside industrial port, or a seafaring industrial port with ships, with the accoutrements of a dock for loading the ship and servicing it, and etc, etc. Loads of really cool buildings. Like I say, it's got a distinct Mordheim grimdark sense to a lot of the buildings, some of them semi-ruined, all of them looking quite sort of ramshackle and run down. So if you're looking for something to stage a Mordheim campaign in, or something like Frostgrave, anything of that nature, this is going to be a great campaign. I know there are a lot of Mordheim fans that watch the channel. I know there are a lot of Frostgrave fans that watch the channel. Also, this could do great for something like Carnival, with the sort of the dockside bits and pieces. You could certainly have that, as they are canals, you could have them as canals. Great sort of building pieces for moving around on, jumping between, etc, etc. All of that good stuff. A lovely set of, you know, really high-end, in a very ramshackle, grim and dirty looking way, terrain to fill out a tabletop and give loads of play, loads of option, loads of hobby opportunities here. Okay, next up for our STL file campaigns, we've got Post-apocalyptic vehicular combat bits by Michael Crossman. So this is a repeat creator, and a creator that we featured a fair few times on the channel. They put out bits for building post-apocalyptic vehicular races. So yeah, there's a definite Gaslands nod in there, and obviously there's going to be a lot of Gaslands fans watching this channel. This particular set is themed around bits and pieces for punching up your Hot Wheels cars, weapon sets, all sorts of bits and pieces, rams, weird sort of wheeled leg things, lots of stuff for like yeah, modding, mucking around with, and sort of getting your cars to be the way you want them to be. As I say, loads of weapons. Lovely to have it sort of shaped and scaled and set and themed for modding Hot Wheel cars specifically. So these are the right scale, they're the look, they're the right shape. If you're a Gaslands fan, or a fan of some of the other post-apocalyptic car combat racing games, I understand there are others out there, this is a great set to pick up, get your vehicles modded, get them looking cool, and get them racing on the tabletop. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got the Royal Hunt Archers and Hunters STL Mega Pack by Infernal Miniatures. This is a really cool looking modular set of grimdark imperial sort of feeling hunters. So lots of bows, a handful of pistols and black powder weapons, hounds, a ragtag bunch really sort of looking at guys. So these would be great for If you're playing an Empire force and you want a really thematic, cool-looking set of skirmishers and hunters within it, these would do brilliantly for a good-sized warband. So these would be great for something like Frostgrave, for a unit or two within a game of Saga. Every single one of the pieces has a lot of character and a lot of feel to them. Great to see some female as well as male bodies and torsos in there. Lots of options because of the modularity. You could put these guys together 100 different ways. Loads and loads of all the different bits and pieces. You've got heads, arms, weapons, bodies. You could put them together, fairly endlessly. So yeah, these would be great, I think, for a warband or narrative level style game with a sort of grim, darkish feel to it. Obviously, depending on how you put them together, you can tune up and down the level of grimdark that you've got in your minis, but lots of options here for a sort of a hunting party, a hunting group, a set of scouts, skirmishers, something of that nature within a sort of human grimdarky sort of themed force. Yeah, well worth looking into this one. Okay, last up for our STL file campaigns for this month, we've got the Frost City 3 3D printable STL miniatures and terrains by Rafael Marino Dominguez. So, talking about forces and terrain and bits and pieces that'd be perfect for Frostgrave, we come to the Frost City campaign. So you might have guessed from the title of the campaign, this one is absolutely themed and directed at putting out a set of stuff for playing Frostgrave with, and they've absolutely nailed it. There are wizards, sorcerers of all of the different categories of type, faction within Frostgrave, so you can really theme your wizard, theme your force, have a real sort of sense and feel to it. Obviously there are the other bits and pieces. You've got henchmen, you've got loads of terrain, monsters, constructs, really sort of fun, interesting things. As the title suggests, this is like the third campaign in this series, so they're getting into some of the more sort of outlandish beasties, which means they've got some stuff with some great character to it. All lovely sculpts, really cool looking, but with some real sort of feel and story to a lot of these minis. Really great campaign. Certainly, definitely, if you are a Frostgrave player, a Frostgrave fan, stop by. This should be an insta-back for you. For other people, they're really cool minis. If you have something with a wizard themed warband, and it doesn't have to be Frostgrave or any of the other sort of Frostgrave adjacent games, this could be great for a Saga Age of Magic game, something like that, something with a bit of more of a narrative, individual combat level, something with a themed warband campaign system, anything of that nature. Get by there, give it a look over. Obviously, if you're playing something where frost themed terrain is going to be suitable, so if you're playing like the Elder Scrolls games, swing by, pick this up for the terrain. Lots here to sort of look over. If you're playing, as I say, anything with a narrative level, a warband level, anything with a sort of magical based theme, anything with a snow based theme, and just if you want something with a lot of character and a feel and a sense to sort of punch up your gaming, giving it a bit of a theme, give it a bit of a story, well worth swinging by and giving this one a look over and checking it out. Okay, that's it for our standard campaigns. As usual, we have a Pay What You Want campaign this month, and this month's Pay What You Want campaign is Modular Sci-Fi Fast Attack Vehicle Pay What You Want by Falling Star Studios. So this is a Pay What You Want campaign from a first-time creator, and it's a really cool one. We often see terrain, occasionally we see minis, we don't often see modular sci-fi vehicles like this in a pay what you want campaign. So I would say first of all, just swing by, give it a back at whatever level you think is a fair price to pay for what you're being offered here. There is an upgrade version in the campaign, so if you're really taken with it, you can pay the full price, get all the bits and pieces. So yes, it's a modular fast attack vehicle. It's got a bit of a feel of something like the Tumbler from the Dark Knight, something solid, sort of adaptable, fast moving. So this is going to be great for any sort of sci-fi setting agnostic gaming that you're interested in. This is a really great vehicle to pick up at a really reasonable price, slot into the library, start supporting a first-time creator who's obviously looking to sort of build up a bit of an audience. There's loads of modularity there. The pay what you want level just has a single turret and a single sort of upgrade set for the vehicle. The upgraded levels have more options, more bits and pieces, just as a sort of thank you for backing at a higher level. But yeah, it's a really cool looking vehicle, great for any sci-fi setting agnostic gaming you might be doing, and well worth picking up, slotting the library, and as I say, supporting a new creator in getting themselves going on Kickstarter and getting themselves creating. Okay, that is it for this month. As I say, we're seeing a real reduction in the physical reward campaigns, which is totally to be expected as we're running up to Christmas. I think that's going to continue up to December, and then it'll start sort of picking up again in February, March, April as we go on, because people don't necessarily want to pay for something physical leading up to Christmas they're not going to get by Christmas. But still, lots of nice digital campaigns out there, and I think they'll be ongoing right up until December, so there'll be plenty as to look at and considering in the months to come. As usual, we've got a game design chat between myself and Mike Hutchinson coming up this Saturday. I'll be back next month for another roundup, and there'll be bits and pieces popping up on channel through the weeks to come. But for now, from me, from this episode of Rule of Carnage, it's going to be a thank you and goodbye. So goodbye. Bye-bye.